Hello, this is Patrick Roy, one of the wild guys. I used to do canoeing throughout Canada. Now I'm with my wife and we're doing some cruising that's pretty comfortable, and we're touring different glaciers and also researching glaciers around the world. So I hope you enjoy this one. If you enjoy the wildernesses, you're going to certainly enjoy the next coming movies. Come with us and see the animals free in their natural environment. This is starting out at Series 4, and we're at the Hubbard Glacier on the Inside Passage as we went up to Alaska. I don't think that we're going to be really short of ice on this particular trip. The Glacier Bay now, we'll be covering Antarctic. We'll be finishing off the Hubbard cruise that we started out with as well, and a Hubbard Glacier. I would also like to cover Antarctica because it has 91% of the ice on the Earth's surface, and most of that is on the east side, and it is actually still growing. This was in 2007, this particular trip that we took up the Inner Passage, and on this trip we went into Glacier Bay and spent some time there. We found that 95% of Alaska's 100,000 glaciers are thinning, stagnant, or retreating. But North America's glacial ice only amounts to about 0.5% of the Earth's glacial ice. Antarctica's is 91%, and it's growing. The boundary of Canada and the United States contains the largest non-polar ice field in the world, as well as some of the world's longest and most spectacular glaciers. Polar ice is sheets of ice near the north and south pole. And this is where you have to have really cold weather. No heat down there. The eastern side of the Antarctic is known for their sheet ice, known as the polar ice. Bear Glacier is not far from Stewart, British Columbia. After viewing Bear Glacier, go on into Stewart as well, and then from Stewart you can go over to Hyder and up into Alaska ways, and then back into Canada to the Salmon Glacier. The record snowfall there is 1,100 inches, and they had a major catastrophe avalanche in Grand Duke, and 26 people were killed and 17 was injured. This happened on February the 18th, 1965. We have covered most of that, so I just give you a bit of a summary, and we're now back on the Hubbard Glacier, and we'll be going back and covering that and looking at the calving that's taking place there. We will continue to follow and monitor the Hubbard Glacier. The overcast sky is starting to clear up now, so we should have a good day watching the Hubbard. It's hard to have your camera on and running in the right location because there's a massive area that the Hubbard Glacier covers to catch them when they're falling, but we're going to do our best. On the right hand side, you're going to see a small calving taking place on the screen. It should be coming out. You can generally see the water moving. You see a little whitened area there. You can see the water the white coming out, the wave coming out. You know that the ice is coming down there now. That is going to be just the start of it. It looks like that more glaciers coming down. You see it coming down there right now. So you'll be a period of time where you won't see a lot of activity, but you still hear the noise, so you know things are moving. And then there'll be a period of time that there'll be a few of them coming down fairly closely together. Well, that wasn't the end of it either, because there's going to be more ice coming down there. Again, it looks like the very similar spot on the right hand side there. So just keep your eye open there, and you see a wave, so you know that there's water and probably some of the ice coming down it's not noticeable, but there will be some there you see some coming down right at that time. Why do I only get a few of the calvings? Well, the Hubbard Glacier is 76 miles long, 7 miles wide, and 600 feet high. That's why. When you're standing out on the deck of the cruise ship, you'll hear all kinds of noise, but I've turned that down so you are not able to hear all the noise, or else you won't be able to hear anything that I'm saying. But I'll turn it up now and you can hear some of the noise as the glaciers come down. There's a fair amount that's coming down there. So when you really focus on one area, you find the area where there's some movement, then you'll notice that it continues a little more coming down at that particular time. So there is quite a bit of movement here. Looks like there's some more ice coming down now. If you watch the waves there, you can still see ice coming down and the wave going out. We hear a lot about the glaciers thinning and melting, and yet at the same time you might ask, how many glaciers are there in Alaska? Well, there's over 100,000. The biggest glacier in Alaska is the Bering Glacier near Cordova, and it is 1,900 square miles, so it's a big one. You probably will wonder, is it growing or is it shrinking like a lot of the other glaciers? And the answer is there, it both grows and it shrinks. It seems to change about every 20 years, the research that I checked out. But overall, it is shrinking, according to the information that I did research on, and most of that was from Google. Then in Alberta, which is in Canada, they have about 800 glaciers. There is 17,000 glaciers in the province of British Columbia. When you see the number of glaciers that we have in Alaska and also in Canada, and particularly in British Columbia, you'll think, wow, there's a lot of glaciers. When we look at the glaciers we have in Canada and Alaska, you'd think, wow, most of the number of glaciers are here. But if you look at where all the glacier ice is, 91% of the ice is actually in the Antarctic. And in the east side, they are growing and they're the largest part. And in Greenland, it amounts to 8%. But in North America, it actually is less than a percent. It's 0.5%. And in Asia and the rest of the world, it mounts up to about 0.1%. If we look at the actual numbers of glaciers, it'll give you one answer. But if you look at the amount of ice that there is in the earth, it'll give you a different answer. Some glaciers are very small and others are very big. I got my information from areas that I thought were reliable, and they gave me two different stories. So if you're on the side of the fact that the glaciers are melting, then, and we know that the majority are, then you would go with the actual numbers. But if you were on the other side, you would go by the actual amount of ice that there was on the earth. Is it growing or is it receding of the glacial ice on earth? And that would be the Antarctica, because those ones are growing, especially on the east side. The other factor you may want to look at is the polar ice, which is mainly sheet ice, and it's near mostly the very north and south poles where it's very cold. You may be able to use that for whichever side you're on as to whether you think it's growing or it's shrinking. We will be covering other glaciers, and hopefully I'll be able to give you another report on them down the road. Mount St. Helens is another mountain that surprised me, and that is, I think of the volcano and the heat, but now it's a fast-growing glacier, and it's expected to continue growing. I'm not sure how long. Overall, the glacier I've seen in my lifetime, which is 77 years, they have been shrinking. Mind you, the glaciers I've seen have been smaller ones. When I was young, a kid, I used to listen to the radio, and they scared me because they were telling me that the ice was going to cover the world. Now that I'm old and watching TV, they're scaring me again. This time that the ice is going to melt and it's going to flood the world and drown me. The fastest growing glacier in the world is in Greenland, and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but It's Hackasvin. This glacier flow is about 100 feet per day. Okay, we are in the inside passage up in Alaska right now at the Hubbard Glacier. This one is a beautiful glacier, and it's also growing. In July 2015, we were at the Denali Mountain, where you will find the fastest growing glacier in Alaska called Moldo. It is growing anywhere from 10 to 100% faster than it usually does. It goes about 3 feet per hour. The last surge was in 1956 to 1957. The glacier that we have here at the Hubbard, it's pretty noisy. You hear all the banging and crashing, so even though you don't always see all the calving, you certainly know it's moving by all the banging. Some of that sound that you're hearing, I'm sure, is also contributed to by the wind that's been blowing here. So you'll see hair blowing in the air on some spots down there. So there is some wind as well. You don't always see the calving, but we have a number of calvings that took place that we managed to be focused in the right place at the right time. We're going to now bring series number 4 to a close. We're just about done the Hubbard Glacier, and there's a few other glaciers we'd like to give you some information on. I hope you enjoyed the iMovie we had on particularly the Hubbard Glacier here, and I hope you can come back with us as we do series number 5, when we're going to be covering a lot of information on Antarctica, and particularly the east side, and the amount of ice we have there compared to the 200,000 different glaciers around the world.